Hey guys, welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Alex Harriman, and this is my co-host, Jerrika Rydell, and we are the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy the episode. So Jerrika, thanks for doing this with me. I know this is a new thing for both of us. How you doing?
It's pretty good. This is very new for me. I'm pretty excited though.
Right on. So we wanted to start off this episode just by introducing ourselves to you guys and letting you meet us and who we are and where we came from. So, ladies first, Jerrika, tell us how did you get into fitness? I guess we'll start with.
I've always been into athletics, I guess, my whole life. I really got into coaching and that sort of aspect, basically in university. I went for my undergrad for a kinesiology degree at University of Waterloo. There, I actually started cheerleading and realized that the coaching aspect was more for me. So I actually applied to be the kind of like the strength and conditioning coach. And that's where the love fell for everything fitness, kind of that motivational aspect is where I really fell into play. And so I did that for about 2 years. And then from there, I moved to Barrie. And that's where I started coaching at Training for Warriors. And ever since then, it's been just a love of mine. I've taken a couple different courses on nutrition, and I'm trying to think here. I'm also a massage therapist. I did that in Barrie as well. So just all things, injury rehab, prevention, fitness, health is kind of where my life's been kind of taking me. Now I live in Sudbury, actually. I forgot to mention that.
Awesome.
They found me here.
That's interesting. Actually, our stories are very similar. So I started out. I always played competitive volleyball growing up, and I went to college, played competitive volleyball, and I knew I wanted to be a firefighter. I always wanted to be a firefighter, but it was one of those things you had to get some life experience before you were even going to get looked at by a fire department. So what I did is I knew I wanted to keep playing a bit more competitive volleyball before I ended that, because I knew it wasn't ever going to be a professional thing. So I went to the local college and I studied strength and sport conditioning. And that's where I really, really found my passion for fitness. It allowed me to become a much better athlete, but it was also something that I was really, really into, and I enjoyed a lot. So I played those years of volleyball, but then I actually went on to coach some volleyball and then became a personal trainer, much like yourself. That was back in 2008 now. And then since then, been personal training. I did that for about 12 years. And my son was born in 2017. And I knew that the life of a personal trainer, the early mornings, the late nights, it wasn't going to work as a family. It was one of those things where you're always missing out on those really, really important times as a family. So I started to take my business online from there and do a little bit less in-person training. And then that's kind of how I got to this point. And that's what all led me to this point. So it's you and I, we both trained together. We did some group fitness together, and that's kind of what got us to this point. One thing I would be curious to hear though is you competed at a high level with cheerleading and then coached at a high level. What would you say is the main difference you would take away from being a competitor to being a coach?
It's hard for me to be on the sidelines. I'm very competitive. I have a competitive nature in me, but I think it's seeing the strength and just seeing what you've helped create. It's a kind of a motivating aspect. Just in helping with the injury prevention is the big thing. I'm all about building that body to prevent and to live a healthier life. So to see my athletes on the floor strong and looking good, it was a pretty cool moment for me. Although I was a little jealous.
For sure. Yeah. I could totally see that. When I first started coaching, I'll say this right now, I was never the best volleyball player, and I'll never claim to be. It was just something I loved, and I really liked it, and that's why I did it. I played at a high enough level, but I was never one of the better players. But then when I started coaching, right off the hop, there was already players better than me. And I thought that was what was really neat with coaching. I mean, if we look at professional sports, of course, the players are often better than the coaches at the sport itself, but it's pretty neat to have that outside perspective and to be able to help an athlete grow and evolve their game at something that they're already better than you at. It's cool to get that coach's perspective when you spend so many years being the athlete.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I was never this big time cheerleader. I joined cheerleading because I've actually was a competitive dancer my whole life, and cheerleading in university was the kind of the closest thing to it. And so it was a brand new sport for me, to be honest with you. And you're right, there was people way better than you. And so just to help them achieve something even bigger, and to know that you were a part of that is pretty cool for sure.
When I first came out of college, strength and sport conditioning, I worked with a lot of athletes, did a lot of Olympic lifting and powerlifting. I wanted to make athletes bigger, stronger, faster, make them jump higher, make them better at their sport. What I discovered really quickly is that all of those really high-end athletes wanted to work with the best personal trainer, the personal trainer that had the most experience. So I wasn't getting the clientele that I expected to get right away. So what I ended up getting was a lot of parents, mostly busy women who we work with almost exclusively now.
Yep.
And it was really interesting because I had to relearn, but change, not relearn everything, but just change the concepts that I had learned and that I was trying to apply to athletes. And what I found really quickly is I fell in love with a lot of the other aspects of health. So one of the big things that we teach and we coach with Breaking 90 Fitness is whole health. And what I mean by that is we cover everything from nutrition to exercise, to sleep, to stress, to mobility and rehab. And there's so many more aspects to health and fitness than just becoming bigger, stronger, and faster. And as I started out, that was my passion, but now I actually enjoy, I would say, all of the other stuff more. And I love coaching the whole health and how we can get people one step further on their journey. So even though I started out working with athletes, I actually much prefer coaching the population that we coach now. How have you found the transition?
I'm actually in the same boat as you. It's funny because when I moved to Sudbury is when I really started taking on personal training clients. And then once you and I got to talking and you kind of brought me on board, I was frustrated because I can only help, my schedule only allowed for me to train maybe 2, 3, 4 people around my massage schedule. So when you open my eyes to what we can offer here, and I mean, the sky's the limit, right? We can reach people around the world doing this online business. So this has been the coolest jump to the biggest, like the next step for me. And I'm pretty excited about moving forward for sure.
It's really we're in a really unique time for fitness, especially with the past year in COVID and gyms closing down and people having to learn how to exercise from home. So while a lot of people who've just started to take their business online, I was really lucky to have been putting the steps in place a couple of years prior to COVID, because I think I worked out a lot of those kinks that every online trainer starts with. And when COVID hit and gyms closed down and people had to start training from home, I was able to take off running. And I'm glad that you were there to help me, because I think you and I both bring a really different background and a really different training experience to the table, which is so beneficial for our clients. But the one thing you said that is massive is the fact that we are online, we are remote. So what I love about online training now is you don't have to pick the best trainer for you in your city. The way that training used to be, you would go to a local gym and you'd pick a trainer that you got along with well and who could help you the best out of that availability. And now the possibilities are limitless, and you can reach any trainer anywhere in the world. You can find the best trainer for you in the entire world now, all from the comfort of your home, from your smartphone. And I think the way that fitness is going and the way that online training is going, the people who will do very well are the people that have picked a specific niche and really focus on helping that niche. So as I mentioned earlier, we work almost exclusively now with busy women. We love teaching women how they can make progress, how they can get to their goals without spending their entire lives in the gym, their entire lives in the kitchen. Talk a little bit about the workouts and what we do with the workouts.
Yeah, I think like you said, now more than ever, and even with what's happened the last year, not only are we just coaching online, you're just opening your app necessarily and just reading the workouts, but you have us at your fingertips. And I think, like you said, we do Zoom calls, and it just shows how much more we've evolved in terms of, yeah, sure, I'm in Sudbury, Ontario, but you can have a face-to-face conversation with me and talk about your workouts, and maybe something's I'm feeling a little off. So when it comes to the workouts, most of our busy women are actually doing at-home workouts right now, especially with all the gyms being closed. So we have a program created that you can do at home, whether it's body weight, bands, dumbbells, whatever you have. We have those variations. And in a lot of the videos, you'll actually see like us on the videos, which is awesome, demonstrating. So it's been really awesome to be able to personalize each kind of experience for everyone.
So I don't want to spend the whole episode just talking about us and our program, although I think it is great, and I think it's a good fit for a lot of people. I'll be the first one to tell you, if I don't think you're going to be a good fit for our program, I have no problem referring you out to another coach. I work with tons of other online coaches, and I have no problem at all passing people along to somebody I think is going to be a better fit. And I think that's one of the great benefits to online coaching. But one thing I wanted to ask you, because I'm curious on your opinion, and I'll give mine after, is what do you think the biggest struggle for people is when they first come to a coach, whether it's in person or online? What's the thing that people are struggling with the most when you've experienced them coming to you?
I think people are just overwhelmed with the amount of information, or that they feel is like basically the information. This magazine said this website said this, and they're being pulled in a lot of different directions, and they just don't know where to start. And I think simplifying it, that's one of the big things that we work on, right? It's just showing that, for busy women especially, but how to simplify these things. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just being overwhelmed and not knowing where to start per se.
There's a quote that I love. I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's beginners complicate and experts simplify.
Love
and
it.
it's so true. Everybody, when they're first starting out, wants to make this whole thing so much more complicated than it is. And I think it is overwhelming. I think there is a ton of information on the internet.
Absolutely.
And the thing with health and fitness is there isn't always just one right thing, right?
It depends.
It always depends. So I think having a coach in that sense is massive, because it's somebody to ask and it's somebody to simplify for you. What should I do in this situation? What's my best option in this situation? Whether that's an in-person coach or an online coach, I think having an expert to simplify those things for you can make a massive difference. And I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's a really good point. The one that I was going to say that I encounter the most often is people are lacking accountability.
Big time.
They don't have accountability, and they don't have some form of a system in place. So if people ask me for one takeaway, what can I do to succeed? I would say, simplify it and get an accountability system. And that doesn't have to be a coach. It could be an accountability partner or a workout partner, whatever you want to call it, a mentor. I think a coach is great if you don't have a really good accountability system, but I think you need some form of accountability. Everybody needs accountability.
Even coaches need coaches, right? So
100%. And I've told this, I'll tell this to anybody. I've hired many coaches along my own journey. Mm-hmm. We're not always motivated as much as our clients would love to believe that we work out for 6 hours a day and only eat chicken and broccoli. We're human too. So nobody's ever going to always be motivated. And there's nothing wrong with having a coach to get you through those times when it's a little bit harder to push through.
And I also think it's important that they see that we're also real. You know what I mean? Like I tell everyone, I do eat chocolate every night with my tea. Do I eat a whole chocolate bar? No, I have a square of chocolate, right? So it's that discipline, and it's showing that we are real, but there are ways around, making those bigger mistakes, right? So, or minimizing the damages, as we like to say.
Absolutely, minimize the damage. And I think, you know what? I think everybody kind of knows it when they first reach out. They know that if they only had a little bit of chocolate every night, or they only had a couple of slices of pizza, that they'd probably do pretty well. But it's human nature to jump into that all or nothing mentality, and you say, well, I had pizza today. This day's a write off. I might as well eat a couple more pieces, have a couple beers. Next thing you know, it's Saturday morning and I feel like shit, and I'm going to write off the whole weekend. Right.
Yeah.
And
it just kind of tumbles through. Yeah.
And how often do we see that all or nothing mentality?
A lot.
I would say almost every single person we've worked with has been caught by it, including myself at times.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to overcome, and that we can help people overcome, is just changing your mindset that it doesn't need to be perfect or awful. There is an in-between.
And that in-between will yield results, or can change you drastically, whatever your goals may be.
So the thing that we focus on the most is fat loss, sustainable fat loss. So if you could give one piece of advice to somebody listening to this that they could take forward, what would you give them?
When it comes to fat loss, I would say, the thing we already talked about, not overcomplicating it, is the biggest thing, and having a coach, or a mentor, like you said. But I think when you're just starting out and you're going into wanting to learn more about fat loss, and you're confused, I think it would be having someone to help guide you, and that, in my opinion, would be a coach to help make things a little more simpler.
Yeah,
for sure. It gets confusing, and you end up getting a lot of questions, right? Especially off the hop, and I think that it's really important.
Yeah, I would say the same as you, but to give people a second takeaway, then I'd say start a lot easier than you think you need to. So we that's kind of the same, but if you think you need to work out 5 days a week and you're currently working out 0 days a week, start with 2 days a week. Don't start with 5.
Yep.
If you think you need to eat 5 servings of vegetables and no junk food to make progress, and you're currently having a bottle of wine every night and a whole pizza every Friday night, don't start with 100%. So start by having some really easy steps. I'd say start by having 2 servings of vegetables every day. Start by having 3 servings of protein every day, and do that. And that's it. And don't complicate it more than that. Run with that for a couple of weeks, see how you're doing, and then move forward from there.
I think the same thing applies with the water too. I'll see people kind of type into a calculator and they get this big drastic number. Meanwhile, I've only been having like 3 glasses a day, and then it's almost like you're asking for failure, because you're now going to drink 2 to 3 liters, and you can't make it to the bathroom that many times. And I think it's just like you said, be realistic, start small, gradually increase.
Yeah, I think those are good takeaways. I don't want to overcomplicate it more than that, and we're certainly going to cover a lot of different topics in our episodes to come. But I think that's a good introduction to who Breaking 90 Fitness is and what we do. If you are curious to find us, or you want to get a little bit more information, you can certainly follow us on Instagram at Breaking 90 Fitness. It's the word 90, not the number, and I'll leave that in the show notes. We've got a free Facebook group, which is a great community, and it can be used as an accountability tool also. And I can leave that in the show notes. But certainly if you guys enjoy this as a topic, and you think that you could get some value out of what we're offering here and what's going to be in episodes to come, please follow along, like this podcast, review this podcast, share it with your friends, and let us know any topics that you want to hear in the future, because we're really looking forward to what we can do with this as a platform, and what information we can bring to you guys. So make sure you reach out to us. We're always happy to chat, and let us know what you'd love to hear.
Looking forward to it. It's gonna be good.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.